Hello everybody, welcome to this new thing I'm trying out. It is the Logan Productions Sports Show. And really all I'm planning on doing here, this is my plan for this show. It's just me and other people I have on the show. Like today I've got a buddy, Garrett.
Hi.
He and I will be talking about the biggest sports news from this past week, and I'm going to try and do this weekly, though I'm telling you right now, I doubt that's going to work. But we'll see what we've got. And without further ado, why don't we start this new thing I'm trying out. So we have a couple of topics today. I'm hoping that this will not be over 30 minutes, though. It might be because there's a lot to talk about. We've got stories such as Jimmy Johnson winning his 7th championship in NASCAR, tying the all-time record with Dale Earnhardt and Richard Petty. Not to mention a bunch of other things that came from that race from Homestead Miami Speedway on Sunday. We have the Cleveland Browns. We're going to be talking about them, see if they can actually get a win by the end of this season. And we're going to ask you guys who you think is worse this year, the 49ers or the Cleveland Browns. We have some college football stuff. And then we have who we think is going to win the Pacific in NBA basketball, if it's going to be the Clippers or Warriors, because those two teams are extremely strong this year. So why don't we start with Jimmy Johnson's 7th championship? Sunday night was the championship race at Homestead Miami Speedway for NASCAR, and 4 drivers were eligible to win the race: Jimmy Johnson, Carl Edwards, Kyle Busch, and a 4th guy. For some reason, I'm not thinking of his name right now. Joey Logano. I'm sorry, Joey. I didn't mean to forget you. But, really, I didn't want anybody in that Final Four to win. I guess Carl Edwards would be my pick just because he's not that bad of a guy. Jimmy Johnson, I'm just sick of seeing him winning championships. Kyle Busch is... I never liked him from the start, ever since he started racing with Hendrick Motorsports back in, 2005. And then... I guess I just don't like Joey Logano. I don't like Penske in general. I don't like oh my gosh. Penske Racing in general. I like Ford. I don't like their Penske brand. I don't like that. But, yeah. So, Garrett, I know you're not the biggest fan of NASCAR. There's a lot of other sports you like more. But, is there anything you have to say about this?
Nope.
No, not really. Yeah, he's not a huge fan of NASCAR. Probably when we get to the other sports like NFL and other leagues like that, NBA. Probably later in this season we'll get some MLS action going on. But yeah, he doesn't have too much to say about NASCAR. But yeah, Jimmy Johnson got his 7th championship, tying the all-time record, and it really makes me wonder if NASCAR is going to change the rules again to prevent him from getting an 8th championship. Because from what I think, all of these rule changes in that is what's been killing this sport for years. It's not as popular as it was anymore, and I think it's just because they're trying to change everything. I mean, look at back in the 90s when Michael Jordan played basketball. They didn't change the rules at all when he played basketball. They just said, you know what, if he becomes the best basketball player of all time, so be it. And he did. But they didn't change the sport, and now look at how big NBA is. So I think they just really need to do the same thing with NASCAR at this point. Just keep everything how it is. Don't change it. You know, just leave things how it is. But, yeah. Jimmy Johnson, if he wins an 8th championship and probably gets a couple more wins, he will definitely become the best NASCAR driver of all time. Because the way I see it right now, the top 5 best NASCAR drivers of all time goes Richard Petty, Dale Earnhardt, Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon, and probably David Pearson. And, you know, before Jimmy Johnson's 7th championship, I had it as Richard Petty, Dale Earnhardt, Jeff Gordon, David Pearson, Jimmy Johnson. But this 7th championship changed everything, and I hope NASCAR realizes that this guy is already in the discussion for greatest NASCAR driver of all time. It's too late. Just leave him alone, and if he becomes the best NASCAR driver ever, so be it. Alright, but that's all I have to say about that. Later, like, during that race, it was late in the race, there was a very nasty crash that took out arguably 2 championship contenders. Carl Edwards got in that nasty crash with Joey Logano. I'm going to tell you what happened. What happened was Joey Logano, on the restart, Joey Logano came down way to the bottom, almost into that yellow dirt, and Carl Edwards was in front of him. Carl Edwards did not want Joey Logano to pass him because this is a championship on the line. And if you let him pass him, the race is over for Carl. You know, he wouldn't have won. So he didn't let Joey Logano get down. He tried to block Joey, but it was already too late. Joey ended up turning the 19 of Carl Edwards right into the inside wall. And then he bounced off the inside wall, flew up the track, and Casey Kane had nowhere to go and slammed right into, I'm guessing, the back. I couldn't really tell by the replays, but I'm guessing it was the back of Carl Edwards' car, putting Carl Edwards up on his side, and it was just all ugly. And then other cars crashed below them, like 4 or 5 other cars were involved after that, and it ended up with Martin Truex's car just completely bursting into flames, which is never fun. So I look at that and I just think, man, you know, you don't expect, I mean, you can't expect crashes like that from a track. You can expect some pretty bad crashes from any track, but one of the tracks you would put at the bottom of your list is Homestead Miami Speedway, because that track just normally is not known to have really bad crashes, but yet that one is probably in the top 5, maybe even top 3 worst crashes of the year, because it was brutal. And another huge headline that came from that race was Tony Stewart's retirement. That was his final race. Well, his final race that we know of. He could be like Jeff Gordon and come back to race a couple of races next year. But he raced his final race. Tony Stewart had a great career. 3 championships coming in 2002, 2005, 2011. I was too young to remember 2002 and or 2005, so I don't really remember this too much, but I remember 2011 because he was battling with Carl Edwards, and they actually finished in a tie in points, but Tony Stewart ended up winning because I think he had like more owner's points or something like that. But yeah, Tony Stewart had a great career. I'm glad to see him that he actually got a win this year, because it's really, really interesting to see. You know, I'm sorry. I just gotta I just gotta change the subject a little bit here. Tony Stewart got a win this year at Sonoma, and he really didn't do well at every other track, which makes me wonder if they actually gave him this win. Because Tony Stewart did terrible at every other track except for like maybe New Hampshire. And and then all of a sudden he goes out, pretty much dominates this race. And then takes the lead on the final lap, almost wrecking Denny Hamlin, who was a huge chase contender this year, for the win. I just thought that was really interesting. But no, I mean, I'm glad to see Tony Stewart get a win. That's about all I have to say about that. So that pretty much wraps up the NASCAR news. Now we're going to get into some other sports here. Going into the NFL, well, now we have a lot of teams that could be Super Bowl contenders this year. We got the Raiders, Seahawks, Patriots, Giants, maybe even the Vikings or the Miami Dolphins you could maybe even put in there. But one team, we'll start off with one team. One team that's definitely not eligible for the Super Bowl are the Cleveland Browns, who are, they're about to break a record, I think. They're about to make history of being 0-16. They're 0-11 right now. 0-16 is quite possible for them, and I actually think it's going to happen. Now, I'm from Cleveland. I live in Cleveland, so this is obviously not a fun topic to talk about, but it has to be talked about because it's probably one of the biggest news stories in this league right now. And, it makes me think about the 2008 Detroit Lions and how they went 0-16. And, it makes me think about how similar these teams are. So, I don't know who I think is worse. Garrett, who do you think is worse? The 2008 Detroit Lions or this year's Cleveland Browns? Or do you think it's, too early to talk about that yet?
I think the Browns are worse because the 2008 Detroit Lions have had more, closer wins. They had closer wins.
Closer games?
Yeah, closer games.
Okay, I get that. I mean, the Browns had, I think, one game where they lost within, 5 points. And I know they lost only by 2 to the Tennessee Titans. I think it was, 28-26. But, no, I do understand. But another team that's actually doing quite terrible are the San Francisco 49ers. Or in this case, the San Francisco 1-9ers. Because they're 1-9. Now, nobody had, huge expectations for this team, I don't think. Or at least I didn't. But 1-9, I mean, you're starting to become a team that the Cleveland Browns might even have a chance against. I mean,
yes, because the Browns beat them last year.
Yeah, but that was last year. The Browns won 3 games. We would kill for 3 wins. But no, I think the Cleveland Browns, I think a Cleveland Browns 49ers game would actually be a pretty entertaining game to watch. The battle to see who's actually worse. There was a little bit of talk at the beginning of the year saying that the Chicago Bears might be worse, but that's pretty much been decided. The Chicago Bears are a way better than the Cleveland Browns. But no, it's kind of a toss-up to see who would win in a game of the 49ers versus Cleveland Browns. You guys can post in the comments who do you think is worse, the 49ers or the Cleveland Browns. To be honest, I think it might be the Cleveland Browns, just because their defense is allowing a lot more points, I think, than the 49ers is.
But I don't think it's the Browns' fault because their coach just is an idiot.
No, the Hugh Jackson is not that bad, though. Hugh Jackson, I think, is getting somewhere. I really don't know. Like the Browns.
But he gave up a second round pick for like two like really bad players and like the sixth round pick. Or yeah. During the
I don't know.
draft.
I don't know. You guys can post in the comments who's worse, 49ers or Cleveland Browns. I think the Cleveland Browns might have a slight edge. If the 49ers or Cleveland Browns played in the game, what do you think the final score would be? I personally think it would be like 49ers 10, Cleveland 7. But yeah, we're gonna move on from that because I mean both teams are making headlines for how bad they are. So now we're moving on to the college football playoffs. This has been a huge topic in sports news lately about who is just gonna make the top 4. Now, right now, as it stands, the top 4 is Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, and Clemson. But Ohio State and Michigan play Saturday. I would not miss that game for the world. So it's going to be really interesting on who wins and who's getting kicked out of the top 4, because if I'm going to get really mad at like the college football committee, playoff committee, whoever ranks them, if the Michigan Wolverines lose and they only get knocked back to 4th. I think that's just going to be really upsetting because that's their second game in 3 games, I think, where they would have lost if they lose this week. So, you know, I'm from Ohio. I live in Ohio, so I mean, you can guess who I'm rooting for. But no, I think it will be probably one of the best games. Will it beat the 2006 Ohio State versus Michigan game? I don't know. It all depends on how entertaining the game Saturday is. Maybe we'll see another huge fight like that one a couple of years back.
I think Michigan might win, but Ohio State won't get kicked out, I bet, because they have a higher ranking than Michigan.
As you say that with an Ohio State jersey on, but yeah, he is wearing an Ohio State jersey, but yet he's thinking the Michigan Wolverines are going to win. But I want you guys, this is another thing I want you guys to put in the comments. You know, when I do this show, I rely on what you guys think, because this show isn't about me. It's about the YouTube world and all the sports fans out there. So I just want you guys to think, who do you think is going to make it into the top 4? If it's going to be Ohio State making it in, or if it's going to be Michigan, or maybe we'll even see Wisconsin or Washington in there, or maybe even Penn State. That would be really interesting.
Penn State, no, because they may have beat us, but...
Well, Penn State's ranked like number 7, so you got to be careful with Penn State.
They still have to win like 3 games in a row and make sure all the other like top 4 teams lose for them to get in. So I know it's not gonna happen.
I don't know. They could make it. They could win the Big Ten. Penn State. Well, I don't think Penn State's not eligible to win the Big Ten anymore. But you know, they will come really close, and I think they could become a top 6 or 7 ranked team, top 6 ranked team by the end of this year. If Ohio State or Michigan loses, we'll just have to see. Or maybe somebody else will lose. Maybe Alabama will finally get a loss. Who knows?
Probably not.
And that leads us to some NBA news, which this will be our final topic of the day. How long have we been going on for? Well, we've been going on for a while. So our final topic today is NBA. Now, in the Pacific, we have a lot of talented teams in that division, but the 2 most talented are the Golden State Warriors and the Los Angeles Clippers. Those 2 teams are just unbelievably good. And I don't know what the Clippers have added to become so good, but they definitely are becoming a really good team with Chris Paul and Blake Griffin and those guys. And then, of course, you got your stacked Warriors who have Kevin Durant and those, Kevin Durant, Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. In my NBA Live mobile game, they're starting 5. 4 of them are elites.
Blake Griffin is really not good.
But it's really interesting how the Clippers are still first in their division when the Warriors have these 3 guys. But who do you think is going to win that division? The Clippers or the Warriors? Who do you think is going to be
Warriors.
winning it by the end of this year? You think the Warriors?
Warriors.
I say the Clippers.
Why?
And this is my reason why. Because, I can already tell that Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, and Stephen Curry's talents are already starting to click together, and they're already starting to know how to work together. But, I think that the Clippers are just going to have more, because I think the Clippers, I don't know if the Clippers have the easier schedule, but it seems like they do, just off of what I've seen so far and how good the other teams are. Will either of these teams win the finals? Probably not, though I wouldn't be surprised if both of those teams made it into the finals to Game 7. Now,
if they were in the finals together,
they can't be in the finals together.
well, if they were able to, the Golden State Warriors would probably win 3 games in a row. Clippers would win the next one, then Golden State Warriors would win.
I don't know. Chances are we've got the Cavaliers going to the finals again this year, just based on what they've done. But, I think it'd be a real toss-up to see who would make it into the finals with them, if it would be the Clippers or the Warriors. I think it would be a very entertaining best of 7 if it actually comes to that. But, other than that, that's about all we have today. We're out of time for today. So, you guys could also put in the comments, too, who you think is going to be winning the Pacific, the Clippers or Warriors. But other than that, I think that's about all the time we have. So, yeah, I think that this first episode was a success. I don't know, I gotta see how this all sounds. And other than that, we'll just let you guys go, and we'll see you guys later. When will I be making another episode of this? I don't know. Will I be making another episode of this? I don't know. It depends on what you guys think of it. But other than that, that's about it. So we'll see you guys tomorrow. I'll probably see you guys tomorrow. I'm thinking about uploading a video tomorrow. So yeah, let me know how you think of this, and that's all we've got for today. So we'll see you guys later.